Yeah, just sit around. Let's be gentlemen on the sofas.
This session is intended
for your information, we're starting. Okay. Just we don't want to interrupt you.
Unless you can bring the sofa with you.
Which is absolutely, we're welcome to have you on the sofa, but here. So, excuse me.
You're excused.
Oh.
Sorry.
Are you ready?
All right. No, he's ready. I'm not. I'll pass you the microphone later. So,
Speak close to you.
just like that. We'll manage. Anyway, the thing is that we've been talking about here so much about how much we can do or should do for others, how to make others people's life better, but it's also good to stop for a moment and think about how we can do something good for ourselves. And this session is about all the good stuff. It's about sports, your favorite sports. I'll tell you about my favorite sport and I'm passionate about. We'll talk about diet, we'll talk about fat, we'll talk about the calorie myth. We'll cover all those subjects. And please participate because we don't have all the answers. We have a lot of questions, also some answers, some suggestions, but you're welcome to throw your balls on the table anytime you want. So let's do something for ourselves. What I do for myself, I've been doing it for a year now, I row. This is my passion, really. I mean, I also do horseback riding. My muscles are sore after yesterday. But this is really my great passion. And rowing is, I went to a British university. It was Cambridge, so famous for this Oxford-Cambridge racing. But actually, I didn't start rowing in Cambridge, unfortunately. So I'm from Warsaw, and the Vistula River is a very broad, wide, and very dangerous river. It's very tricky. So we're doing rowing on there. So it's either a 4 or an 8 of a long oar, or it's either a double oar. It's called the short oar, which is my favorite. And those boats, my ladies and gentlemen, are so flippy, it's not even funny. So you make one mistake, you're in the water, it flips upside down. So you really have to make sure the precision is key, and you really have to make sure that you're doing everything in the right way. So it's really, I mean, all the rowers who are Olympic winners, they say you can really master one movement for years and there's still room for improvement. So this is really a very precise game, a very precise sport. It's academic, so hopefully intelligent people do it. And it's also on a social level very interesting because I met a lot of cool people from many, many places. So yeah, so what we do, apart from, the trick is to cover all the greatest rivers in the world. So I've been starting to do that, and we did 30 kilometers in Seine in Paris. It takes 3 hours, and your hands look like something horrible, because that's actually the worst part. Your hands are not pretty. Because you have to have precisions on the oar. So you move it, and you actually roll the oar outside, away from and you have to have the touch and the precision. It's really impossible to do to oar gloves. And so that was Paris, and this is London, head of the river. This is the largest race in the world. It was 300 boats of 8, long oar. And I was helping them training. I was coxing for them during trainings, and it's also interesting because not only do you have the chance to get to know a city from a completely different perspective from the water, but also you learn about rivers so much. So the River Thames is crazy, and it's been very hard for us to not only take part in the race. We were somewhere in the middle. We wound up, but there were 150 people behind us, so it's not that bad. But it's also to get to understand the traffic regulations on the river, if you may say so. So I would like to if you could just tell me what your favorite sport is. Maybe you have a passion for something. Let's just round a circle just to get to know your interest in sports, and then I'll give the floor to Limor. Okay? So Adriana. Running.
But triathlon, but swimming and surfing and,
Isn't she great?
No, it all depends,
I don't believe you.
No, it's depending on the group. I have a problem myself. I can say no.
Okay, what do? You run?
2 points on the
So, scuba diving and volleyball. Scuba diving and volleyball.
Ski.
Cool. And during summer? Water ski?
Ski in Argentina.
Okay. What about you?
dancing.
Dancing. I like that. Okay. Who's next?
I run 3 times a week and I do yoga twice a week, so that's my routine. And other than that, I do fun stuff. So, yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yoga and dance, not fun.
What about
Thanks
you?
for the tip.
I play hockey, roller hockey.
That's cool. Oh, okay, I like that.
I cycle. We have a river, the biggest in the world, called Ayacon in Toronto.
This room is actually.
You should go
And I cycle.
By the way, river implies that it has like water.
So it's a concept. It's not a river.
Let's not be that overzealous about that.
Turns over in the
Okay.
That's it.
You're
You're dead.
No, so there was
Tennis. Okay. Tobias.
Sailing.
Cool.
sailing.
That's cool. All right.
Okay.
You wanna?
Did you say?
Scuba diving and volleyball.
Volleyball, right.
Limor, what do you do?
Okay, so
He'll tell you.
so I've been since I don't know what, forever. I've been regularly 3 times a week, more or less, running in the gym, running and a bit of weights, because I for a period of about 5 years I was constantly traveling, so flying twice a week. So that allowed me in the hotel to have some regular fitness. So my story that relates to this is that, so I've been having very good, I go every year to this checkup in Israel. In Israel it's really organized, it's a money laundering scheme. You basically you go and they puncture you, they make you run, they get all these parameters, and then they give you a report saying you're so healthy.
Well done.
Well done. Yeah.
See you here.
Yeah. So I've been doing this, and I can track my parameters for many years, and everything was fine. And I used to eat I never thought about eating, about what it implies. So I always would eat whatever I wanted, and it was okay. And then in recent years, so I passed 40, and this year I'm going to be 47. So it's what I learned is that in the medical community, when you reach 50, they don't treat anymore. They treat the symptoms and not the cause. They don't look for the cause. It's like you're alive. Say thank you. You know, well, you want some cream. So that's the attitude. So.
Give you some cream.
Yeah. So basically, what happened is that in the last test in December, they found sort of my blood pressure was sort of not when I was sitting down, but when I was working out, when I was running, my blood pressure went pretty high, and they also found some other stuff like hormonal stuff that was not really well, and so it got me started thinking about what is going on. I'm still doing my running. I'm eating more or less. I mean, I don't binge eat. I don't. My weight is pretty flat. It's been 68 kilos for whatever I can remember, and yet the blood pressure was abnormal, and so I started looking into this, and it turned out that my internal body fat, even though outside under the skin there's very little fat, the internal was quite high. My body fat index, or the amount of internal fat, was relatively high. So what happens, I think, is that because I've got good core muscles and everything, it works against me. I'm actually squashing. It's squashing more and creating more pressure on the whole blood system. So that's why when I was running or when I was doing the sports, actually the blood pressure goes very high.
Sorry, is this it's very good hypothesis, fat? Is it your own hypothesis,
Yeah.
or did you go to the doctor?
No, the
to
doctor
ask about
said-
the diagnostic?
The doctor said it was abnormally high, but they just said, maybe reduce a bit of weight. There was no real explanation there.
Yeah,
So-
and who of you are familiar with the term skinny fat? Are you familiar with that?
Is it not tomorrow?
Well, not really.
Yeah, so it turns out that there are different types of fat. So I never realized it, but I started reading and I found all this really disturbing information. So,
It's dangerous to Google diseases,
Yeah.
You find that you're dying 10 different ways.
right.
Which we all are anyway.
So it turns out that like a lot of you see some guys. So now when I look at a guy, you see some people that are like they look relatively. You touch, it's like hard and that. But actually, when you see typically middle-aged men, they will have like their chest is like that. It's because they are full of fat. The fat is pushing against the ribs, and so so basically you have, this is what kills people, what gets people into heart problems, is that you've got all this pressure building inside. It's a bit like cancer, in the sense that it grows, it balloons inside of you, and it applies pressure, and it can actually apply pressure and create different problems. You can even have a loss of some of the internal organs. You can get loss of bloodstream, and so it's
And it's actually easy. I mean, if you're a little bit bigger here, it's easy to check your internal external fat, because of course if you have fat outside of your muscles, and this fat is very difficult to be lost through exercise, but it's the less dangerous one. If you see people with a somewhat bloated belly, but it's really hard on the outside, this is the internal fat that they're creating.
And you're higher. So having high blood pressure, it basically applies pressure on all the systems, and on the long run, it can degenerate the heart, it can degenerate the liver, it can degenerate different parts of the internal body, and you can get dementia. I mean, it's so. So.
Ouch!
So then I started reading about.
You're a friend, no? Just to, be more specific.
I'm being supported.
I can say it.
Started reading about it and found, of course, different. And the internet is littered. It's like asking, I want to change my bank account or I want to remortgage. Like you have 200 pages of crap before you reach any intelligible information. So weight loss and all that's not the right Google terminology if you want to find interesting information.
Yes, everyone is a specialist.
Yeah, and it's always like very black and white, and don't eat this, eat this. So the truth is much more complex. It's a very complex system, but the more you learn, the better you're off. And so this is how in an MRI the fat distribution. So you've got the external fat, then you've got all this internal around. All your internal organs are covered with horrendous.
Not the same person, right? Or
This is
it
from the
before
front,
and
this is from the back.
No,
This is Zuzanna, and this is Limor.
no, it's
How did you know?
after? Is this a before and after?
no. This is just a fat person versus a non-fat person. This was really, for me, was really a revealing thing.
Yeah,
so,
for me too, those things.
So, Kinnernet, typical Kinnernet person, point them out.
Yeah, where would you
Well, I can show you myself.
But it's a good test of self-criticism, I think,
Yeah.
and how to know yourself.
So-
Find yourself on that. We will have female photos later.
There is an application that instead of asking, this entire, a bunch of things, they show pictures. So you can choose
Yeah.
and choose where you want to go. So you choose the first and choose the
Right.
go.
Oh, and this one was, you think you're cool,
Yeah, I
right?
think you're cool. Yeah, actually, 25% of your mass is this yellow rubbery crap.
Well, 50% of the rest is water.
So it's like,
So
No, you you.
So
No place
for the brain. So actually, I mean, the
This
healthy.
is like percentage of, what is the?
This is the
That's fat percentage.
Fat
Yeah.
percentage.
not having brain.
So of your body, how much fat, and this is
Yeah.
what you will look like. So
Yes.
we're accustomed. So because in the Western world, we're used to eating a lot of fat, a lot of sugar, a lot of that. Then, we are accustomed to seeing this kind of the 25% looks like cool, looks normal, but it's not. This is not how we were meant to be. We weren't meant to be
3%.
No, 3%. By the way, you can only be in that state for up to 3 hours, and then you risk different types of death.
But that's for sure.
But you've been there.
So what's healthy?
Hey, you said you do
Well,
the weight.
No,
I think
that's-
that
come
The healthy
guys,
is around
15 to 20%,
Yeah.
and for women, 20 to 25.
Yeah, this is
Why?
Because we have more fat.
So find yourself, ladies.
Yes,
No, so the skiing, if you do like this, we have like an entire layer of fat, more than the men.
I like 35.
I like 25 too.
So because I'm a freak, I have a special weight that measures body fat.
What are you, Zuzanna?
So I am between 22 and 25.
Wow, yeah, great.
Something like that. But actually, I mean, it's fashionable these days to be 20 because that's the fit,
That's
six-pack
the
type.
16-year-old
But that's the
supermodel.
drive for me, I think, for a girl. I think that we need to have some stuff on our bones.
Yeah. No, the whole industry of fashion it pushes, it's 16-year-old anorectic. So
Yes, a model is 15 to 70% body fat.
I did 12.
yeah.
Once upon a
You
time.
did 12? Wow.
Yeah. So
I was still in the university. I was doing triathlon. I had blood taken every 2 weeks. That was way upon a time.
yeah, and so when you are in the right range, then you're just healthier, happier. Everything is better.
But this also, I mean, 25%, this looks healthy, but it also can be skinny fat. So we trick ourselves because if we think that if we look at an overweight person, so we associate that with health issues. But it is true that there are some people who are naturally fit, but it doesn't mean that their state of health is perfect. It actually may be much worse than an overweight person. So we have to look at other things also, and not only judge people by how their exterior looks like, but also their interior. And also we have to understand more about food and calories, especially because that's the greatest lie, the calorie myth we live by every day. We'll get back to that.
So yeah, and then there's also on the internet you find a lot of before and after.
Oh, those are
That's the most easy to create picture.
But no, actually, the thing is that you need to separate between muscle building and fat. So they're two totally independent, and that's another myth. It's like, yeah, when you go to the gym, you burn more calories, or you induce more use of fat, and maybe you will. But in order to lose the fat, it's actually food. You can do no fitness at all, and you can lose weight. It's not a.
Yeah.
I agree because I had to step out to take a call, but I don't like sport. I don't do sport.
Yeah, not at all. But just to be alive, if you're alive, you're burning.
Walking and that's it. But
Yeah.
And also that's why well, we think that okay, you run and you think it's very important that to
touch the screen so it doesn't
to
block.
combine cardio exercises, which is cycling, running, anything with lift weighting, because if you build muscles, even if you don't do anything after training, you burn more calories than you would have.
Right. But by being alive at 36 degrees Celsius, there needs to be some combustion going on. And so you need to keep that alive. So if you're exposed to the outside temperature, which is 20 degrees, and I'm 36 degrees, I'm constantly expelling heat, and that needs to come from somewhere. The other thing is that the brain consumes quite a lot of. So when they say It's about 2,000 calories a day. It's just by
For a
being
man.
alive. You need
For a
that.
woman, it's 1,300.
Yeah,
Okay,
because
so
the
now
brain is
you-
smaller.
You gravified what
It's
we're
more
gonna do.
efficient.
1,300. Yes. we are more efficient.
Yeah. And this is also
Before after. isn't it?
before after for.
So she has about 24 percentage fat percentage. 24%. Yeah. And this was 35 before, I would say.
And this is the loss of the visceral
It doesn't
fat,
look
or-
like the same person.
Well, you lose both.
Just, you're talking about her breasts, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah,
But the second comes from the diet. Actually,
Just change the broth.
of course, I mean, first of all, you cannot lose fat only in one place in the body. You lose fat everywhere. So, and the second thing is that when it comes to belly fat, which is the most difficult to lose, this fat loss comes from diet and not from exercise. Because you can, of course, you have to do a lot of cardio exercise to burn more calories, etc. But if you want to develop, you develop muscles, you may have very strong muscles, but if they're covered with fat, they're not visible. So diet is really important for this part, and this is really what tells if we're very healthy or not, this area. Okay.
So now,
Is it the muffin, right? You know,
The muffin top,
effect. Yeah.
so now about weight loss. So there's a whole industry around how to lose weight, and this is the most fascinating one I found. It's a guy who decided he was 260 pounds, what is it, 150 kilos or something, and he wanted to lose a very modest 30 pounds in 6 months. What he did, he took an Excel spreadsheet and he said, this is where I'm at now, this is where I want to be, and I want to be constrained within this, within these two lines. I want and every day he measured himself, and just by doing that, the psychological effect was that he reduced his weight. I told Yossi about it. He said he tried it and he didn't know. But so what I did, I basically at first I didn't really do much about it, and then I started reading, and then also I met when I visited in Israel, I met my brother, who is 4.5 years younger than me, and he followed this book which is called The 4-Hour Body, which is this guy who's he's a techie Silicon Valley guy who hacked his own body for 10 years. He tried everything possible to try and control, to play around with his body, with his hormones, with his this, in order to optimize different parameters. He just said, okay, now I want to have a 10-minute orgasm. Let's see what I need to do in order to do that. Or I want to binge eat for a week and lose weight. So
Who are those people? Absolutely crazy.
So he had fun, then wrote a book, made millions, and covered the cost. So he said at some point he spent like $250,000 just on the machines that he bought in order to measure his own
What a geek.
his own parameters.
Go to IKEA, they give you a free cake.
So anyway, so I saw my brother and I couldn't believe it. I mean, he over 2 years he looks like Rambo. He was like nice and chubby, but now he looks like Rambo. And he followed this book. So I started reading the book, and it sounded a bit extreme there. But what I did do was I said, okay, I can start by just my breakfast. Let's focus on my breakfast. And so instead of just eating with the kids a granola and fighting with a 6-year-old to feed another bite, come on, you can do it, and then he doesn't, so I do it, right?
That's absolutely true.
So instead of that, I decided, okay, I want to have control of my breakfast. So I said, all right, so there are all these supplements. So there's this whole world of supplements. So I said, okay, but all the supplements basically are derived from plants. So my breakfast consists of 1 kilogram of plants, of anything green, that I can find in the supermarket. And then I add a bit of dried fruit or maybe an orange or something, and it's like mix it up to not completely paste, but something that I still need to chew a little bit. And that's
Seriously?
it. Yeah.
1 kilogram.
Yeah, something between 700 grams and a kilo.
Green
I try to stuff as much as I can.
That's something like that, no?
But and
It's the green stuff.
1 kilogram.
So my kids call it the Incredible Hulk goo. and the rest of it I pack up and take to work.
What kind of green things you putting in?
Spinach, broccoli, leaves. I put even garlic a little bit.
Yeah. You can add.
Yeah.
You can do broccoli.
You have a picture?
Can I do a very bad question?
Grain black seeds.
What do you do with
powder.
it? I mean, you take the
You can add
broccoli.
spirulina, that is a green, that's an
Oh, you blender it?
It becomes a green goo.
from China that has a lot of
Use
protein.
the,
And just spoon
Limor, can I do a very bad question?
Yeah.
With all you read and learn,
Yeah.
your kids are still doing like the Kellogg's boxes, and you are, selfish yourself, doing like the healthy food.
because kids
Step
can
by
eat
step.
up until you're 30,
First
they
they
can
see,
eat
they
the
see and
shit.
learn.
Well, I think
No, Kellogg should be prohibited to be
I think
selling
that
any
grown-ups
place.
can
That's
be
a
on a
different
diet,
lecture.
then you have to have a balanced
No,
diet.
no, it's not a diet. It's like healthy eating.
Healthy
But
food.
Yeah.
can you explain, why are you not taking fruits? Because fruits, they don't have any
Fruits are
chemical.
sugar. I mean,
Sugar.
veggies are
And they
better.
have sugar intake, right?
No, I do
That is
fruits,
not
but I
going
don't.
to turn into...
I don't do a lot of fruits. Just like for example a banana.
these days, and it was not like green
No,
stuff.
okay.
I
Okay.
Sorry, Limor,
No,
just
the-
keeping your secret out.
The other, the,
home 2 days every week, so you can eat this green stuff. The rest
No, I do the green stuff.
but so the green
This
stuff.
is
So I
great.
did it for 6 weeks. I did this thing, and I also try, if I can, to eat protein in the morning, like fish, or well, for sure an egg, but fish,
Like tuna or?
like
Can we
tuna.
go further because I think we
Yeah,
have something.
one of the interesting things in that book, they said that any protein that you eat within half an hour of waking up helps reduce fat.
And any carbs you eat out within 20 minutes after you work out is fine. It's not gonna make you fat, it's actually necessary for your body.
Oh,
That's so you
yeah.
have to know those
Yeah.
tricks. But going back to those, I mean, we talked protein, we talked, a calorie, those tiny creatures that live in your closet that sew your clothes a little bit tighter every night. But a calorie really is the amount of energy that is necessary to heat up, I think, a gram of water to 100 degrees. That's what a calorie is. But what the problem with calories, talking about the green stuff, the fruits and the vegetables and the meat and everything, is that we think that because this is a level, this is a measurement, right? So every 1 calorie is the same as the other calorie, which is not true, of course, right? So 1 calorie taken from a donut is a different calorie than a calorie taken from kale or spinach. Why is it? Because this 1 calorie taken from kale or spinach is turned into vitamins and minerals in your body, and this one coming from the donut, your liver immediately transforms into fat and stores.
Because
Sorry.
it's cholesterol.
This 1 calorie. So it's really sorry. So yes.
No, I just wanted to say, look, I think, I guess, well, partly from a biochemical point of view and things
Thank you
like
very
that.
much for inviting us to talk about biochemistry after 3 days.
Someone gotta save us, okay? So do
Okay.
something here.
Yes,
No, I guess, I mean, firstly, I think you have to be, not sort of contradicting what you're saying, but you have to be very careful with what you read and the messages you take away from it, because a lot of these messages, like, that the calorie, like you just said, the calorie from kale gets converted to vitamins and minerals. Well, it doesn't, okay? Calorie is a measure of energy, and minerals and vitamins are something else.
Yeah, but
So
I'm
they
just
are
saying that
biochemically, it's like, bricks don't turn into wood or things like that. So the issue is, I'm not saying that that's wrong, because I think the message that you have is right, which is the calories from a vegetable
exactly
are
what I
not the
was
same
aiming
as
at.
the calories from something else. But the other thing, but you have to be very careful with the generalizations and things that a lot of these things come on the internet, because
Okay.
what happens is when they do a study right? And as you know, those of us who work in science, you know, the study is done in a very controlled way with a very specific set of conditions and a very specific set of subjects. And so they may find that, for instance, as you say, protein consumed in the morning gets burned. But if you look at the study when they did that, they might have done that on high school athletes in the USA eating this type of thing. Now then, one thing I can say and you cannot necessarily generalize that across whole populations or all things unless you've done really comprehensive studies and you can take out factors such as age and smoking and things like that.
Okay.
And if I just add to that one more thing is that, I mean, I was not a healthy youngster. I never did any sport or anything like that. But when I was in my early 20s, I started working for an ice cream company. Because I was eating ice creams every day, my form changed quite dramatically. Okay? And I started to go to the gym and started doing exercise to keep it. And what I found in the decades I've been going to the gym, that is I've known many people, and every person is individual. Yeah? And so a diet that works for one person will not work for another.
Absolutely agree.
An exercise regime that works for one person will not work for another. So one has to be very careful with generalizations, because what can be very healthy and good for one person can be very unhealthy for another
Absolutely,
person.
I absolutely agree, and I think that, I mean, the generalization that is the worst one is, we're not trying to, I mean, it's very difficult to cover such a subject in 1 hour, so that we're you know, educating anyone about that. We're just talking about how we figured out things for ourselves that work for us. It doesn't mean it should work for anyone else. But what is the worst generalization of all is that we're trained, especially I think in the States, is that we should leave by, you know, the calories in and the calories out. And this is the worst lie ever, because some person thinks that if they eat 1,200 calories a day, whatever, just make 1,200 calories and eat donuts and things like that, that will still be fine, which is, I believe, really erroneous. So that is why, I mean, this may have been a cross generalization. However, it was aiming at just informing everyone that this is, you know, the way we understand how we should nourish our bodies is wrong when we only look at calories, I think. Right. But also, I mean, going back to, I started with rowing. So rowing is amazing because it burns, they say,
about 825.
about 800 calories an hour, and then
Very
and then I think, what was, can you go back? The second runner-up was, yes, was running. So it's really amazing. 560, I mean, this is what, you know, what they say.
Yeah. So
yeah, go Ken.
walking, you might as well, you know, sit and watch TV. It's hardly, or yoga. You know, that's.
It's better. I think it's better. Not everything is about burning calories.
So we
Right,
should
yeah.
stop walking
Especially when
10,000
you
steps
talk
a
about
day.
yoga.
No, so
Can be quite
so the two things. Yeah,
It's
I
not
think
cardio.
the two things that really. So I lost 3.5 kilos in about a month, 5 weeks of fat, which was the impact. The nice thing was suddenly my belt, like 2 holes on my belt. I was suddenly able to wear trousers that were in the cupboard from years ago.
Which was not necessarily a smart thing from a fashion sense.
Yeah, but you know, it doesn't apply to me. So
And the key question, were you hungry?
yeah, so
I was starving. I used to diet myself.
so that's the thing. It took the first, I think, 2 weeks at least. I felt faint in the afternoon, like I really felt weak and so I had to, and I tried also to reduce coffee, which is another parameter. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I tried and I failed. I went back to coffee. But, I took some chocolates, like you know, very high, those 85% chocolate, whatever. I don't eat a pack a day, but when I feel faint, I would eat a cube of chocolate. So it's okay. But so overall, I lost 3.5 kilos. So from 68, I went down to under 65. And I don't see any other side effects. And the other thing is my fitness regime. The other thing I read was that that you need to kind of change. Actually, if your body habituates. So my running routine for 20 years was 13.5 to 14 kilometers an hour, 20 minutes, a bit of ups and downs, but pretty much that was it. And then the weights were the same and everything. So I started changing that. I started doing more interrupt running, heavier weights, and maybe that also contributed. Yeah, and then I started looking into protein. The other thing is that you start looking into protein. So you know that you need to consume in order to feed the muscles and to help reduce weight. You need to, what was the number? It was
What I know is that you need around a gram per kilogram. So
gram per
if you're 60, then you need 60 grams.
60 grams. So it's
More or
quite
less.
difficult to get 60 grams of protein from natural food. There are all these supplements that you can get, those whey, they're called whey. It looks like horse food, and you add some aspartame to that, and
Some hay into it. It's actually not that easy to make sure that you have those 60 or 80 grams of protein a day.
Yeah.
It's not that easy because
What's that, 3 ounces in grams?
in grams. So look at the grams. So,
Yeah.
but I think
The amount is in ounces and the proteins are in grams. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's
How much is
interesting.
that? 3 ounces.
Anyway, it's not.
So, but there is legumes which have a lot of like 50% protein, the 50% of the mass of legumes. So beans.
Beans are good. Lentils,
Beans.
all those.
Yeah.
things.
But the other thing that I discovered that beans are actually can be unhealthy for men because they have some
phytoestrogen.
estrogen. So
And if you eat a lot of tomatoes.
yeah,
Soy
tomato
does
as
too.
well.
Soy does have a
But
lot of
that's
phytoestrogen.
not,
And eggs as well.
that's not
Phytoestrogen?
I'm not sure.
What?
Ah, no,
I'm not
protein.
I know that soy is not really.
Yeah, that's not true.
Yeah, it's not
It's
real
not
food.
That's not true.
I read a lot about
I read too
yeah.
because my son, he has a lot of food allergies and he only has soy milk. And so I was concerned because he stopped growing and the doctors are concerned because he's not growing now, he literally stopped growing. And we thought maybe it's the soya because of the estrogen, but I did a lot of research and
Then why
it's
didn't you stop?
not proven.
Why didn't you?
Okay.
Why are you experimenting on your son?
But it's not-
I'm not
it's very easy to
experimenting,
measure.
it's a myth.
What's the effect of the
It's a myth, it's not the soya that's causing it.
Anyway, I read that there is a lot of evidence supporting that soya
Exactly.
on kids have adverse effects.
Below a certain
Really?
age.
Yeah. That on sexual development and I mean unreasonable amounts.
Under 6
not-
months old, you can't give them, I understand.
But what this evidence is that we're highly civilized, we know a lot, but we still are very lost
Yeah.
in understanding what is the best way to feed human beings and to make us healthy. You said that you were not a very healthy young kid, and what did you do? What worked for you? Because you're absolutely fit. What works for you?
No, but I mean, I think first of all, as I said, everyone has to individually find what works for them, both the sport that they like, because you can't force yourself to do a sport 4 or 5 times a week that you hate. So you have to find something that you like, and I think, and the same goes for food. You can't force yourself to eat green goo if you really hate green goo. It's just not something you can sustain for years.
Yes.
So you have to find foods and sports and activities that you like. But you also have to find things that work for you. And I think you have to be careful with, and it's not that it's wrong what they do, but governments need to get health messages out, yeah? And they have to keep them simple because most people do not have the time or patience or education to really understand the complexities behind all of these sorts of things. So the human body is incredibly complex. And although even in this talk we already made it complicated by talking about calories and fat and carbohydrates and proteins and things, but that is simplifying what are thousands of different molecules and how they all interact
Yes.
in our bodies. So whatever message you get, whether it's the calories or the fat or the protein or whatever, it's incredibly simplified. And so you have to understand that that should be a guide, that you shouldn't take it as a rule, because even within protein there are different types of protein. Within fat there are different types of fat. Carbohydrates, different type of carbohydrates, and we all. So I think the only thing you can really do is you first have to understand your own body and know that if you have pains or aches or problems or things like that, if you feel faint, it's not a good sign.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't regularly feel faint. So if you're doing something that makes you feel faint,
You're a nutcase.
you need to change
Make it short.
what you do. So I think the first thing you have to do is listen to your own body more than following some general
That's
rule
very
until you kill yourself. And then the other thing is to try and do everything in balance and moderation.
So what works for you, therefore, if it's individualized? What has been working for you?
So for me, for instance, I find that eating smaller meals more often works well, because I find that I have, and I know it's something I suffer because my mother suffers the same, that if I go for too many hours without having something in me, my blood sugar drops a bit and I get migraine. And then no one wants to know me because I'm not I'm not pleasant to be around. So I need to take something little, but if I always take something little and it's a chocolate or an ice cream or something, then that's not good. So you need to surround yourself, or I have in my drawer at work, I have in my bag that I carry around with me, I have try and have healthy snacks and things like that. So,
Oh, right.
Yeah.
so you try and eat. Then the other thing with supplements, try and be careful with supplements like this, especially in the US. It's very popular to pop pills for everything. Yeah, I don't want to be low in iron, I don't want to be low in this.
solutions, yes. Yeah.
No, but that's why the green goo.
Yeah, but they can be very dangerous, and even doing something like the green goo, depending what you're putting in, can be dangerous. So for instance, I had a friend of mine who was very healthy, very into, not completely vegetarian, but pretty much keeping a very healthy diet and all that. And she would, try to concentrate on taking, for instance, a lot of citrus juices, and she would take supplements of vitamin C and things like that to keep herself healthy. And she ended up being anemic.
Mm-hmm.
And she ended up being anemic because vitamin C stimulates the immune system, but the way it does it is it causes the body to release iron into the blood. And the iron is what stimulates the immune cells and helps you fight off things. But your body has limited reserves of iron, and if you are causing your body to release those reserves, but in your diet you are low in iron, especially if you're following a highly vegetarian diet, then you're not replenishing. And so she ended up being very seriously ill, even though she was theoretically leading a very healthy diet, doing yoga, eating vegetables, things like that, and actually poisoning herself.
But did you go beyond the 6 weeks?
No, this is now. This is real time. Talking to you.
Okay.
It's in process.
No, pending.
So I think-
So you're still healthy?
No, but I try to.
You have to do things in moderation.
Yes, I mean, I do green smoothies. I like them. But I like meat protein. I cannot give that up. But it's usually what works for me is, well, I like fish. I like meat. I like my steak. I'm absolutely crazy about vegetables, so I can make myself the largest bowl of salad, of any kind of vegetables, and eat that together with my protein, so it works for me. And I don't eat anything that is the fill-ups, as I said, so I don't particularly like rice and everything that goes together usually in a meal with the salad and the protein.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so
that's another thing I
just
forgot to
don't like-
mention. I stopped eating rice, pasta, bread,
Yeah,
cakes.
no pasta. I don't like gluten, no wheat.
No,
But I
whole
don't
grain
know how
rice.
realistic that is as a
Whole grain rice
lifestyle.
and
And
regular
to be
rice
honest,
are the
like,
same.
I eat a lot of
To-
Cut it
carbohydrates.
out. It's easy to
To
just say no.
to
and that's
Laura's
it.
point, we're traveling, we're not making our own food choices. Ultimately, some of these rules don't work in the context of.
Yes, but you may decide if you want to have a plate of pasta or you want to have some veggies or anything. So
No, exactly. Now I'm traveling, so I didn't have lunch, for example. So I skipped lunch because I didn't find anything that was,
But you see, I think that's
I
worse.
think that's worse.
I would
No,
say
I read too late.
that's worse than to skip lunch is worse than to eat something bad.
Yeah, probably.
because now you're
Somehow you know this.
Carbohydrate is not bad. I think it's bad at night because you are not but in the morning it should be okay, especially you have different kinds of carbohydrates.
But if you look at the breakfast that we were given here this morning, in the morning here, there was almost nothing that I would consider a balanced diet.
Okay.
Espresso?
Leave the house then.
I mean, yeah.
Why? For instance, I had a bowl of muesli with strawberries and milk, and then I had some scrambled eggs. And so the muesli is whole
Just
grain cereals.
Each other's for nothing. We don't have that in our breakfast.
Scrambled eggs.
Whole-
He's in the spa. He's in the spa.
We don't have that. You charge for €1,000 per
We
night.
have only bananas,
Hey, no one can
bananas, croissants, and bananas.
I believe we must stop there because
Yeah.
we're running out of time. But I have to tell you that this session has been on for
Yeah.
2 days now because it's a subject
Leave
that
that be.
concerns everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone is immediately interested and want to know what to do or not.
I mean,
So if you want to
This
continue
was,
the conversation elsewhere,
which
you're
body
very
fat
welcome.
percentage?
All right.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Well done.
Well, did you know that 3 o'clock?
Use 3 to 4.
Did you know that? So, because I had a
No, I